Good evening, everyone. This meeting of the Cocalico School District Board of Directors for November 15th, 2021 will now come to order. Thank you all for being present here this evening. Thanks to our board for being present both earlier today as well as this evening as well. I'd like to invite you to join with us for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As I was opening the meeting there just a second ago, I noticed some people around that I'm hoping you can hear us okay. No. All right. These amplifiers are somewhat obnoxious. That's why I was kind of trying to get along without that. But if we can't, we'll use them as needed. Just give me a second here. So has that become a little bit better? Yes. All right, good, thank you. Okay, we do have opportunity in this meeting for both board and public comment, so we're going to begin with that. Before we get into that, I do have something to read into the public record, and that is that earlier today we did have an executive meeting, executive session, and that was for two specific things. That was actually to discuss some legal matters as well as personnel matters in interviewing. So that was happening earlier today. I would also make a comment that a number of our board members spent time on campus today. Once a year we generally do a tour of the buildings, and a number of the school board members had a good time today seeing firsthand what was happening around campus. So those are the comments I would read into the record. So I'm going to turn to the board first for any kind of public comment you may have.
Mr. President, I would make a motion to amend the agenda to add an action item regarding the health and safety plan and the wearing of masks.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and Mrs. Stahl, do you have a good record of that wording?
Yes, Mr. Brenner has made a motion to amend the agenda to add an action item regarding the health and safety plan and the wearing of masks.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded to add an action item to our agenda this evening regarding our health and safety plan and mask wearing of masks. It's been motioned and seconded. Any questions or further comments about that item today? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call vote.
Mr. Brenner.
Yes.
Mrs. Blickel.
Yes.
Mrs. Fox.
Yes.
Mr. Sensenig.
Yes.
Mr. Renninger.
Yes.
Mr. Buckwalter.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Grable.
Yes.
Reverend Eshelman.
Yes. What item number would that be? Do we make, does it matter? Does it?
So I think it's just that when we get to
when we
item
get to
number
that,
2, it just
we're
means we
agreed.
can take action
I
on
see.
it
Yeah,
rather
right,
than just
right, thank you.
discussion.
Okay, having said that, that will be added to our agenda this evening. We do have several people that have asked for opportunity for public comment before the meeting, and we're going to begin with Michelle Hall, and this is on item number 2.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say, when I told my daughter last week that the mask mandate had been overturned by the Commonwealth Court and that it was now her choice if she wanted to wear masks, her response was, "Thanks. Oh my gosh, I can finally breathe at school." And just to let you know, she's only 6 years old, but it's something that she thinks about and has to deal with every day while she's at school, trying to learn. It's a constant thing that gives her anxiety, that it's more focused on that than learning sometimes. And then I just wanted to read something that I had actually written to Mr. Brenner on his Facebook page when he announced that this meeting was going to be held. For the last few months, I've been following Attorney Eric Winters online, and he's given a lot of great information to the public, free of charge. He's offered to talk to school board members about this mask mandate. But some of the things that he said was just that, the Commonwealth Court ruling said that the mandate by the health secretary was never legal from the beginning, and she didn't have the power to create the mask mandate. And then the school boards has a duty to protect the students from the illegal mandate. And by continuing to enforce the illegal mandate, enforcing children to wear masks, and restricting children's right to an education, the school is opening itself to lawsuits. And the board has stated that they support local control and the parents' ability to make choices for their children. So please have the courage to stand up for the children of Cocalico against this mask mandate. The other thing I wanted to say, just in general, that mandate that she had, she could tell people that they all had to wear hats, polka dotted hats, and stand on their head if that would prevent disease from spreading. Her power isn't limited if the Supreme Court allows this to continue. And so I think that's where, the school board is here to stop something like that from being forced onto our children, protect our kids. And, we've voted for you all, and the whole community is behind giving parents the choice to let masks be a choice that the parents make. And I've said it a few times too that, even under the current mandate, the way it's worded, I think that Cocalico would have every right to approach it the way Elanco did, give the parents the choice of just providing a note saying that their children should not be wearing a mask if they determine that that's right for their kids. And then, that way you're still following this mandate, but giving parents choice at the same time. Thank you.
Now let me invite Beverly Hagan.
Is this where we stand?
Yep, right here.
Okay.
There's some folks online that want to hear you. Right here, this microphone.
All right.
We'll pick them up.
This is my first time here, and I'm nervous. And okay, I'm a school bus driver for Cocalico. I transport and see at least 110 of your students every day. I have a lot of contact with your kids. I see them when they're happy. I see them when they're sad. I see them when they're scared. I hear them. I hear their complaints. I know what's going on. It's not right what's been happening with these kids. We need to stand up for them. You originally had a mask mandate in place in August that was approved by the state until this Beam, the health secretary, came on board and decided that we needed to have all masked up again. It was really scary for the kids when you did that. I drive to the high school and I drive to elementary school. The day we drove up there and you had that police officer out there, you scared 12th, 11th, and 10th grade kids. They didn't want to get off my bus. Are you going to do that again to these kids? And then the elementary kids, when they found out they didn't have to wear masks anymore, they are so happy. Even that high school kids, they're so happy that they don't need to wear a mask. And you took a tour today. Did you notice their smiling faces? You can actually see their nose, their lips, their cheeks, their rosy cheeks, the happiness in their eyes. When you have a mask on that, even the lawyer during the court hearings that I listened to during this proceeding with the judges, she mentioned that wearing a mask for children was just another way of isolating them. Come on, folks, you're isolating these kids. They don't speak, they can't hear well, you have a child I can't understand because they have a speech problem, and now you have a mask on them. They can't be understood hardly at all anymore. Please, please, hear it from a bus driver. We see, we know, we see your kids. We love your kids. We love your kids. And we stand up for them every day. So please don't make them wear a mask again. Just let the parents decide. Just let them decide. They know what's best for their children. And you guys, I know you're trying to make, when you're trying to make a choice and you don't know which way to go, you're supposed to make the next right choice, okay? And so make the next right choice. Not remasking the kids again, not putting them behind isolation again. Please don't do that. We, as drivers, we don't want to see that anymore with the kids. We don't want to see them hurt. I love seeing their happy faces. I love them talking to me more often than they used to. I didn't like hearing my high school kids telling me that they're scared to get off the bus because they don't know why that cop's there. I don't want to see that no more. Let the parents choose. We have a great bunch of kids in this school district. We don't need to make it worse. So I'm begging you, don't do it. Don't do it. It was okay for the governor, the one that you had in place in August. It should be okay now because 4 judges said it's illegal. It's against the Constitution. We still have a Constitution. It is against the Constitution. Why would you do that? It's against the Constitution. And you're opening yourself up for possible lawsuits. As a taxpayer, I'll do whatever we need to do for the children, but I don't want to spend extra money fighting lawsuits because you want to go against the law again. Let it up for the parents. They have a head on their shoulder. They can do this. I have a lot of parents here tonight, and they're good parents. Their kids are healthy. They're good parents. So please, let the kids alone. Let the parents decide what they do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Maggie Weber. Oh, and Malia Van Zandt are coming together. Is that right? Is your name? Okay, thanks. This is Maggie here. And yes, Maggie's on the right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm in 8th grade and go to the Cocalico Middle School. This school year has been a whirlwind, to say the least. Us students have been through so much within these last couple of months of school. There's been so much stress, fear, and anxiety with the main cause of masks. Some of you are lost in what the government wants and don't see the awful effects masks are having on us students. So I ask you please listen to me and have an open mind because I have experienced the effects of masks. Let's go back to the first week of school. Everyone's excited about what the school year has in store for us, especially because we do not have to worry about wearing masks. A few weeks later, you make it harder for us to be excited about school by telling us we need to start wearing masks again. And we no longer get to choose what we want to put on our bodies. Luckily, there is a parent exemption to fill out, so everything will be okay, right? Wrong. Another weeks go by, and you make it even harder for us to enjoy school by telling us yet again we need to wear masks. So our parent exemptions no longer work, and it is nearly impossible for us not to wear masks. Luckily for a few of my classmates and I, we were able to not wear masks. But leading up to this, my brave classmates and I were stressed, scared, and anxious about what would happen. Fast forward to before the mask mandate was lifted, which was when I was not wearing a mask. Here's one thing I experienced. I was told, not directly, by a teacher that if I was not wearing a mask, I should take a step back from my MJHS group, making it nearly impossible to talk and or work with them. I was discriminated against in many other ways for not wearing masks. Someone I know who was not wearing a mask was sent to the nurse for coughing. Now you may be thinking there's no chance she or any of her classmates were discriminated against. She only thinks this because she's not wearing a mask. Well, let me tell you, it's not just me. My classmate who wears a mask told me that she can tell people who don't wear a mask are treated differently. How awful is that? Not just a person doesn't wear a mask until they are treated differently, but so can someone who wears a mask. Although all of this stopped on Thursday, when everyone could choose if they wanted to wear a mask or not. No one was controlled by someone else. We were all able to do what we want and what made us comfortable. We were all able to be excited again and not stressed, anxious, or scared about going to school. To conclude, I only have one more thing to say. Are you, the school board of Cocalico, going to cause stress, anxiety, fear, and many other things by ignoring us students and focusing on the government? Or are you going to be the reason we enjoy school again? Because we are not going to comply or give in when you try to control us. We will stand strong because we have a great and mighty God behind us who will help us through this battle. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Malia. I'm in 8th grade at the middle school. My last normal year of school was 5th grade in 2019. 2019 to 2020, my 6th grade year, the last 2 months of school were lost due to closure. 2020 to 2021, my 7th grade year, I spent most of the school year in my room at home attached to the computer screen on virtual school. 2021 to 2022, I entered school excited to start my first normal year since elementary school. This year has been nothing short of confusing disaster. First, it's no masks. Then it's masks. Now we have to quarantine and miss 2 weeks of school. Now we are back to possibly no masks. Oh wait, now 2 days later, we need to go back to masks again? Now we are here tonight. Where will we go next? Back to wearing masks again? Why are we even talking about forcing masks again? Please, I beg you not to comply. Listen to your students. This back and forth is a distraction from school. I don't have to wear a mask at a football game. I don't have to wear a mask at the rec center, at work, when I go to eat, when I'm in the school locker room, when I'm playing sports, when I go shopping. I don't wear a mask anywhere but inside school. I'm a pawn in this game and I'm tired of it. The COVID virus is just like the flu. It's never going to go away. It's been proven that it won't go away. I learned that from CNN 10 that I watched at school. So what's your end game? At this point, if we have to wear a mask when COVID is over, then we will be wearing a mask until we are old and frail. So please, I politely ask you to ignore the mandate and focus on our education. Thank you.
Thank you both. Linford Hurst, please.
Well, good evening. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary to iterate the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God's highway, decent respect for the opinions of mankind require that they should declare the causes under which we suffer. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, life would include breathing freely, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The present history of the King of Pennsylvania is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of the absolute tyranny over this state. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. It denied us the right to freely breathe. It's a right so basic it doesn't need to be enumerated in the Bill of Rights. He has violated freedom of association through quarantines, lockdowns, the 6-foot mandate, hybrid schedule. He's denying us the ability to work. He denies the capacity to provide. And he's going to pride and satisfaction in a job well done. He wants to put our names on the government list of who we associate with through contact tracing. He's a member of the party who wants to deny bodily autonomy by forcing vaccines. Is a member of the party that wishes to institute a 2-tier citizenship through a vaccine passport. We'll stop with a piece of paper. Why not a biometric passport? Well, for convenience sake, let's just engrave it on my forehead or my hand. He's a prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant. He is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. We therefore, the parents of students and residents of Cocalico, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So I ask, where did the founders get the audacity to make such statements that still inspires me some 250 years later or so? It can be summed up in this phrase, an appeal to heaven. It was a refrain that was prevalent through the founding days. The Creator who gifted mankind with unalienable rights was also the ultimate arbiter of justice when grievances were opposed upon those rights. According to Romans 6, I died with Christ, and I now live with him. I do not belong to the World Health Organization or the CDC. I do not belong to Biden or Fauci. I do not belong to Wolf or the Pennsylvania Department of Health. I do not belong to the Cocalico Board. I belong to God, according to Romans 6. A British parliamentary report in 1774 acknowledged that if you ask an American who is his master, he will tell you he has none. Not any governor, but Jesus Christ. So this is a choice between freedom and tyranny. There is no middle ground. Plant the flag of parental choice. Plant the flag of local control. Plant that flag on Freedom's Hill. Take hold of your heritage as an American and act with courage to ensure that power is in the hands of we the people.
Thank you. Let me call Elizabeth Lockman.
Good evening. I'm Liz Lockman of Denver. I appreciate you all being a little more transparent like the last two meetings. I very much appreciate the decision last week of being mask optional. I pray Cocalico moves forward in what's best for our students. I understand not everyone is on the same page, and there are hard decisions to make. I believe everyone in here has had hard decisions to make. I'm sorry if we've come across very strong, but we are very passionate about our children and want what's best for them. When it comes to how our children are being treated or this mask mandate that has affected them, emotions run very high, as you can see. We have 3 students in the school district, and of course, all 3 of them are very different. My oldest hates the mask and has a hard time with it, but he's quiet and he pushes through. My daughter in high school also has had a hard time to the point where she's almost passed out. She had enough and refused to wear it, and that didn't go well. I shared that at the last meeting. Basically, the school went against their own bullying policy for the sake of her wearing a mask. As a result, I had correspondences back and forth with our superintendent. I got the same response about how the Department of Health was giving direction. And this was a blanket direction for everyone, which actually went against the very mandate itself. There are exemptions, but unless you're under the constant supervision of a doctor, it's impossible to get these exemptions. I'm not sure what happened to religious exemptions and parents knowing what's best for their children. I know people will argue that and think doctors know what's best, or the state that they know what's best. But, as for me and my family, they have really failed us. Don't get me wrong, nurses and doctors, there's great ones out there, but they're human, I was a child under constant medical attention. One medication helped me walk, but another gave me ulcers, gave me kidney problems, gave me osteoporosis. I was not doing well, so I know what it's like to be a kid under constant medical attention. It was a miraculous touch from God that made me completely whole without meds. So I do have a strong faith in my God, and that by the stripes of Jesus I am whole. My girl in elementary school, I warned that this wasn't good for her. I was given the same blanket response. My girl, we received at 7 months old. She was a foster child. And then we eventually adopted her at 2.5 years old. And she has suffered a lot of trauma through the hands of the state. So you understand why I am the way I am. By the grace of God and us working with her, she has come so far and has been doing so well. But like I said, I warned that this wasn't good for her. I even sent her in with just the shield, but she started acting out at school. There are other policies in place, but it seems that this mask one trumps them all. And this is nothing against her teachers, her principal, everyone. They have been fantastic with her. and I actually really like them. But this has nothing to do with them. Several weeks ago, my 7-year-old, she told several people she needed to go home on the bus. There was no note, there was no call to me, and they just took her word for it. So she always goes to an after-school care. She ended up getting on that bus and getting dropped off. Well, no one was home. The director of the care center called the school notified the bus driver, and she said, I just dropped her off. So the bus driver circled around, my girl was gone. So the school notified the principal. She sent everyone available out to look for her, and they notified my husband that she was missing. She was found about 45 minutes later by the park, and she said she was walking back to the school because no one was home. Praise God for his protection, and that we found her, because that could have been really bad. I say all this because we truly know what's best for our children. And I pray you empower us as parents to make all these decisions for our children. I also ask that we focus on education again and not be so focused on the mask. It's time to stand strong for these kids, because this will not stop. If we can't stand strong now, we won't be able to later. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Weber?
It isn't as well laid out as everyone else's, but I apologize in advance. A while ago, you guys said that you put out a survey via email or something, and I don't know that a lot of people in the audience actually received that, and I know I didn't, or anybody that I know. So I think the crowd represents what we want, and the voice on a large majority, I feel, are totally unmask our children. So the other lady said about the lawyer guy, Eric, I think it was, nothing in the statute or regulation that allows, there's nothing that allows the Department of Health to regulate people who are not sick or masking order. That is why it was dropped. And he also said to ask the school board, which is you guys, 2 questions for your solicitors, that why aren't they doing their jobs? They didn't warn you that this order has a lot of problems with real legal critical problems, and they're not telling you this, and the liability for the schools. And he also said that it's not that you guys will lose your house or lose your job or lose you guys. They can sue the school entity and have lawsuits against them for all the traumas that are caused by this mandate on the kids and the traumas that are being caused in their mental psyche, which yet again, you guys said, I recall, that so proud of the counseling sessions that you guys had, and I did say that prior. So you've been denying the kids their rights for the past 2 months and doing damage to them. And yet again, you want us to work with you. We're trying to work with you. We're telling you what we want. We need you to listen. You do work for us, whether you like it or not. My granddaughter was recently told on Monday that she's not allowed to go to school because she was exposed to the virus. And so now she has to quarantine at home. We are not allowed to know who it was, if it was a student or if it was a teacher. And I feel that this could be a serious manipulation for other kids. Her entire class was not quarantined. She was in that class without a mask. And that was Wednesday. She went to school Thursday and Friday, and now she's home for the whole week. And the whole class is in quarantine, which makes no sense at all if anybody understands science and air and breathing. She wasn't masked. She was breathing freely. So, I mean, the whole thing, honestly, and I know this offends people, but wearing a mask just proves that you're afraid. It means you have a lot of fear. You're afraid. Whether you like it or not, you're afraid. And we all know we're gonna die eventually. And I feel that that's a big thing with this. Everybody's afraid of dying. We're all gonna die. Unless the rapture happens and we're Christians, then we're going on. But I understand that there are other people in the audience prior, and I know today probably too, that are going to say that the masks are great, they're working, the virus is on the rise, boogity boogity, because that's what all those TV commercials, when it first came out, we had to stay home for 14 days. I just wanted to be behind it going boogity boogity, or stay home, stay safe, because it's scary out there. The world is a scary place. You can go in a car and die today, which I don't want anybody to happen. I'm just saying there's a lot of things that can get you, and the Wuhan virus isn't going to kill you. Large majority survive it. So that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Leah Lutz, please. So who's with you? Are you Leah?
No, I'm Leah.
You're-
I'm just here for moral support.
Okay, good.
Learning history as a child, we were shown examples time and time again of how common citizens all around the world stood up for their rights. Rosa Parks, Gandhi, Samuel Adams, Martin Luther King Jr., and many more. In fact, our country started with a bunch of guys risking getting murdered to send a letter to King George. As a class, we would always ask ourselves, when the time came, would we stand up for what we believed in? At that time, we assured each other we would. We knew it was the right thing to do, and we still know that now. But in reality, it is so much harder. As it turns out, not very many people actually stand up for what they believe in. All they can do is wait for their suffering to be over because they are too scared to stand up for themselves. I would ask you what they are scared of, but I think you already know. It is the same reason all of you are scared. We fear authority. We fear repercussions for our actions. On the 10th of this month, I was told by a peer that the government had overruled the mask mandate. I was overjoyed, of course, after all the emotional stress of being forced into the concentration camp and being told I wouldn't be allowed into a public school anymore if I didn't wear a mask. The next day, I would say almost 80% of the student body did not wear a face covering. We as students are obviously not scared of COVID, so why do we still have a mask mandate? Masks are causing more emotional trauma than lives are being saved. I would give you statistics, but they have been drilled into your head enough. I'm also assuming that none of you have talked to a child you put through a mask mandate, but I assure you most people don't like wearing masks. I urge you, come see what you've done to the school. Come in and talk firsthand to the children you have done this to. I do not know if it is just me, but I feel the students the mandate applies to are just waiting for a chance to stand up for what they actually believe in. But we need the change. We need the people in charge of deciding to enforce the mask mandate to come to them and actually know their opinions. I know that a lot of people are afraid of getting in trouble for standing up for themselves, and that is not how it is supposed to be. Thank you.
Let me call Dan Burton.
Good evening. I know at this point most of you have probably already made your decision on how this vote is going to go. I pray and have been praying for this this awakening that we're seeing. We see Unmask Cocalico and how they want to unmask the lies and show the truth. Since I've been up here speaking for the first time last October, a year ago, I called for leadership in Cocalico for the same reasons that I moved to this district in the first place. We've seen that leadership wane, and we've seen it come back again. Tonight is another time that we can step up and show what kind of leadership we have in Cocalico. I talked a few months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, about possibilities versus probabilities. I think you've heard a lot of the kids speak this evening on what those probabilities are coming our way. The unconstitutional mandate was voted upon by our Commonwealth courts to be unconstitutional. You've had folks up here speaking for the last 6 months about talking how that ruling was unconstitutional, and yet we still allowed it to come into our schools. And now the probability is upon us, unfortunately. We can step up this evening and go and work towards a common goal for this entire community and avoid the probabilities that are coming our way, or we can continue to listen to our solicitor, who's completely incorrect with the possibilities of what's coming. I've been asked by school board members what evil I see, what is coming after our kids. I get up here and I talk about how the evils of our children. If you don't see it by now, you'll never see it. We literally have kids identifying as cats in our school, asking for litter boxes. Do most of you even know that's happening in our school right now? Asking for litter boxes in the bathroom because they identify as cats. This is evil. We're allowing that. And yet we're putting masks on kids who identify as healthy. But we're worried about the feelings of somebody who identifies as a cat instead of looking at the mental aspects of that. Half the kids in the school think that bisexual is cool now and identify as such, want to call themselves different names. We have teachers not only trying to keep masks on children, we have teachers trying to figure out what name a child is every single day. We have failed. We have failed, not you. We all have failed. If we vote tonight, which I pray that we do, that we vote against this mask mandate and that we allow parental authority to take control again, realize this: it is only the beginning of the fight. Because as soon as you make a step in the direction of righteousness, evil will certainly come after you. And know that if we make a righteous decision tonight, these folks here will back you on it. Realize the righteous fight we are up against, because it is only the beginning. If you do make this decision tonight to give parental authority back to the parents and go back to our health and safety plan, we will be attacked again. There will be smaller numbers coming after us, but we the people, will stand with you. I promise you that. I promise I will die on the hill against the evil that is coming after our children. I promise you that. My son, he's 11 years old. Before I got up here to speak, whispered to me and he said, "Dad, I'm so lucky I don't go here anymore. I pulled him out a month ago. I'm so lucky I don't go here anymore." That should resonate with you. This is not the childhood that we had growing up as kids. This is not the freedoms that we're all guaranteed by the Constitution and by God Almighty. We are taking the freedoms away from these children, away from the parents, and there's no difference between enslavement and taking away freedoms of these kids. We've so focused on getting kids back in school, we just want to be in school for 5 days, that we have lost sight of what we are actually doing to them. Stand up for righteousness. Stand up for what God created us to do. Give them their freedoms back, and let us move forward against the evil that is coming. And I promise you, I will die on this hill with you, not against you. Thank you.
And Rachel Davis, please.
Good evening. I stand with what he just said 100%. The thought of all of us and all of you together looking at each other as one team is beautiful. And that is what I am hoping for. That is what, I think that's what everybody wants. I think that that is what you all want. I know it's what I want. I think it's what the children want. And I know it's possible. I know that it is possible. I am not looking at any of you guys as the opposition or the enemy.
I was tempted to in the past, you know, when I'm angry about what's going on, but that's a distraction. Nobody here is an enemy. You're all my community. You're all my brothers and sisters. You're all children created equally, and that is how I see you, whether you have on a mask or not. It doesn't matter to me. I think if we can really all wrap our minds around that idea, that the enemy it's outside there, it's not in here. And we support one another's decisions and try to understand why we're saying the things we're saying, why we're making the decisions that we're making. We can figure out a way to get through this like unscathed. It's hard to say. It's hard to say anything other than just what's coming out of my heart, because everything's been said already. If it hasn't been said tonight by somebody, it's been said last week or months ago or whatever. Everything's been said. We've had the debates over the masks, whether they work, whether they don't, all that type of stuff. But I think we really are at a turning point here. We really can turn things around here. And there has been a great divide. There's been a wedge pushed in here in the community over the past year, and it's kind of been festering. And you can see in the way certain people react and things they say and responses that go back and forth that people are feeling raw. I'm sure some of you guys feel that way at times. I know some people in the community feel that way at times. But I really think if we can, us supporting you, and you guys take the path where we allow parental choice, where we say, that order was written vaguely on purpose. It was written in that way to protect Alison Beam, Department of Health, and WOOF. They wrote it so the language in there would be very precise if they wanted it to be, but it was left vague and ambiguous on purpose so that there would be room for interpretation among the districts and things like that. And it was stated in there to remind school districts shall not break any local or state or federal laws, including anti-discrimination laws. And they said it on purpose to protect themselves because they knew that what they were asking you to do was kind of forcing you to have to do that in some way, shape, or form, or else you can't really enforce the order, right? So, but they're reminding you, they're saying everybody has to mask, but don't discriminate, right? So it's like, not making much sense there, but they did leave the room for the exception, right? I really wish we could rewind and go back, and I really wish that the board would have considered just ignoring Pennsylvania Department of Education's additional guidance, because I don't think we would have gotten to the point that we did over the past couple of months if it would have just been a let's enforce the order as it's written. I know we can't go back in time, but in moving forward, please believe that for myself, and I know many other community members, just like Dan said, we will back you. We will fight just as hard, and whatever that entails. We're not going to leave you guys out to dry if you get in trouble or you get backlash for giving the parents the choice. Okay? We're not just going to forget about you guys. Okay? All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. That wraps up those that signed up for the pre-meeting public comment. So we'll get into item number 2. And as we begin this discussion, actually I'm going to turn to Dr. Musser first off to give us an update about where things are, even in the legal process and that right now.
Okay, I'm just going to give a summary as best as I know it of the events of the last couple of days. On the 10th, the Commonwealth Court decided that the order was unlawful, and that was the communication that we had sent out to the community. And then also on the 10th, later that evening, or that same day, I should say, the Department of Health filed an appeal, which actually means that it goes into, because of the appeal, the status quo remains and the mask mandate would have stayed in effect. On the 11th, the Commonwealth filed an application, or the Corman plaintiffs filed an application to lift that mandate while the appeal process is in effect. And then on the 12th, the Commonwealth Court announced a requirement for the Department of Health to respond to the application by the end of the day today. To my knowledge, I don't know that the response was filed yet, but I haven't gotten any texts or emails to that effect. But it is my belief that as of the end of the day today, the Department of Health needs to file a response regarding the application to lift the mandate as the appeal process goes into effect. What happens next is the Commonwealth Court must then decide whether or not the mandate will be lifted, or the supersedis as it's referenced. That could be tomorrow, that decision could be this week, it could be next week. We really don't know the timing of that. So we really don't have a lot of certainty at this point if the mask mandate will stay in effect or not stay in effect over the next couple of days. That's the best information I can give at this point. To my knowledge, at this point in time, I am not aware that the Department of Health has yet filed the response, and I don't know what the Commonwealth Court response would be to that. So that's the information as I have it today. I'll look to the board as far as further direction or any further communication regarding that.
Yeah, for all of our sakes then, so last Wednesday, of course, the court overturned that order, which actually technically lasted about 4 hours until an appeal process. It was just later that day, actually, an appeal process, which technically put it back into place. So we would have sent, you all would have known this, I think, that we would have sent a communication to our parents late in the day, Wednesday, 2 or 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, something like that. Communication went out, okay, this is what the lawsuit, this is what has been determined, so that at that point, masks are now optional. We're back to our regional health and safety plan. So later in the same day, I think it's worthwhile noting that as the appeal process came around, there were a number of school districts that actually sent some communication out saying, or some, maybe I shouldn't use the word a number, but some school districts sent a communication out saying, okay, now it's actually back in effect. We did not do that.
Yes.
That's been our final communication with last Wednesday. So we're just wrestling back in the courts that is happening right now, which we need to deal with, and that's just where it stands right now. But we have not heard today the final word on where things stand as of today.
Now, I have no further communication at this point regarding the Department of Health filing a response.
All right, I want to turn to the board. I just want to open it up for conversation and discussion among us, so anybody can feel free.
Kevin, I just have a point of clarification, because I think you guys all heard this, and I was a little confused as I was trying to follow the attorney today, but it sounds like the Commonwealth Court will have an opportunity, and they will likely make the same decision they made last Wednesday.
Yes.
Which means then that DOH will likely go back to the state Supreme Court.
Apparently, I mean, that's a worthwhile guess.
That's
yes.
a worthwhile guess.
Through the appeal process.
Right,
yes.
right, yeah. And that appeal process could be, at least from what our attorneys, it's anybody's guess, I understand, but it's not going to be within days. It's going to be within weeks or a month or longer.
Yeah, and I understood it actually would be longer than that.
Yes. Right.
Even if they would expedite the process, it would
Right.
still actually be longer.
Okay.
All right, more conversation. I mean, I'll put my opinion on the table. I don't want to go first as president. I don't know if I speak first, but
I would submit a motion to update our health and safety plan, taking formal forward action to amend our plan therein, saying that masks will remain optional regardless of any mandates.
okay, make sure we get that again correctly. You want to say that again? Just
So
if
I
you-
submit a
if you have it
motion.
written down, it would be helpful. just to-
I do have it written down, yep, I can give it to you. But I do submit a motion to update our health and safety plan, taking formal board action to amend our plan therein, saying that masks will remain optional regardless of any updates, any mandates.
I'll second.
Okay, let me make sure I get this correct. So the motion is on the table and seconded to amend our current health and safety plan to make masks optional, and that, but the caveat there is regardless of any outcome of the lawsuit or further mandate.
Regardless of any mandates.
Yeah. Okay, that's been motion, there's a motion there and a seconded. Let's go for both comments from the board or questions from the board.
So if we vote yes, then we would be voting for the option. And if we vote no, what would be the opposite, that we would go back to the mandate?
Yeah, I'm not sure that, I mean, I think our floor would be open for an additional motion at that point. So this is purely on this one, so it's not, if it's a yes vote, if it's a no vote, the floor is open because of the original amendment of adding action.
Right.
Yeah. Is that correct?
So add another
Add another motion. Right.
Okay.
So I would have additional comment to share, if I may.
Go ahead.
So I do have a prepared comment to share with you all. To begin with, it is grossly irresponsible of our governor's administration and executive agencies to have placed school districts across our Commonwealth in the middle of a highly volatile and politically charged topic, the wearing of face coverings, by sidestepping, and I quote, the prescribed procedures for rulemaking, end quote. Removing local control and our ability to choose what we feel to be best for the school district and our community. Regarding the court case Corman et al. Versus Beam, within the 31-page opinion, including the opinion of the lone dissenter, it was ruled that, and I quote, the acting secretary issued the masking order, which is a regulation, without complying with the mandatory rulemaking requirements of the Commonwealth Documents Law and the Regulatory Review Act. In so doing, the acting secretary attempted to issue her own emergency declaration about the dangers of COVID-19 and mutations thereof, including the Delta variant, end quote. Furthermore, and I quote, because the acting secretary did not comply with the requirements of the Commonwealth Documents Law or the Regulatory Review Act, in promulgating the masking order is void ab initio, or void from the beginning, end quote. As we know, the ruling by the PA Commonwealth Court has now been appealed by the governor's administration and executive agencies, and is before the PA Supreme Court for final ruling. Due to the current political persuasion of the PA Supreme Court, I unfortunately cannot with confidence conclude that their ruling will be done without political bias. Furthermore, in all likelihood, court rulings regarding this matter could continue to flip-flop for months to come, causing confusion and unnecessary disruption of our operations. Finally, any trust that I had in our governor's administration and executive agencies to make sound decisions that are in the best interest of our Commonwealth have been drastically eroded, and I carry a vote of no confidence in these entities to do what is right. Therefore, in agreeing with the recent ruling of the PA Commonwealth Court filed November 10th, 2021, I will be voting to no longer recognize or enforce the mask mandate that was ordered by the PA Acting Secretary of Health this past August. My decision will return us to what this board voted upon and approved this past summer as it pertains to our health and safety plan, leaving the wearing of face coverings optional. I know my decisions carry consequences, good, bad, or indifferent, and that there are two sides to this coin. Please understand this decision was not made lightly, realizing this will impact people in many different ways. This also places our superintendent, our administration, and staff in a very difficult position. I can only ask you to continue to trust your school directors, now more than ever, who carry our best interests in mind in all things and at all times. Lastly, I fully acknowledge that there are folks who are in high-risk categories and may carry underlying health conditions that would be devastating to them should they become ill with COVID-19 or any other illness for that matter. Others may have loved ones at home that are high risk. In these scenarios, this will require for them to continue to wear face coverings and take precautionary measures to ensure their wellness. For these folks, I highly encourage you to do what is best for you. Rest assured, though, we will continue to closely follow our approved health and safety plan and do our best in providing a safe environment for all.
Thank you. Additional comments from the board?
Other than to say I fully support Richard's motion.
Thank you. I have a couple comments in general. First of all, I would want to say just a thank you to our teachers, administrators, our support staff, bus drivers, those that serve in the cafeteria. They have consistently been over the course of the past, almost approaching, it feels like it's approaching 2 years now, significant dedication, significant creativity in continuing to care for kids in the midst of very, very challenging times. It's been a very difficult season for that as well. I would say as well, from where we are today in November is actually significantly different from where we were 2 months ago in September or even in August when the mask was implemented, mask mandate was implemented. There are actually more tools available now to keep people safe than what was there then, including a vaccine. Now please hear me, I'm not advocating for vaccines. I'm just simply saying that if a parent wants a child to have one, they can now get that where they couldn't actually 2 to 3 months ago. And so that's available there as well. So there are tools. I would want Cocalico to be a place, again, going back to where we were in the summertime, where masks are optional. So I would want students to not be, to be free to take whatever measures they need to keep safe or whatever parents decide, while at the same time, others can decide differently as well. That would be, so I would want each person, each student, each child actually treated with respect based upon their choice and the choice of their parents. And for Cocalico to be a situation, a place where that can actually happen as well. This mandate that was overruled by the court and then put back in by appeal and so forth, that is, that's temporary. We don't know how long that will last. And it's difficult, putting it lightly, for us as a board, us as a school district, to be in the midst of this football, this ping pong ball being put back and forth. And it's time just to kind of, set a course and stay with that action. The appeal that's there is not likely. Well, I don't know. It may be upheld, but even if it is, I think it's unlikely that a higher court would actually overrule what a lower court did. And so, to some degree, it feels like we're just kind of waiting all of it out. But again, I just want to thank our teachers and administrators for the work that they've been doing. No matter what decision is made here by vote, there's challenges in front of that, and we need to be aware of that. Any further comments? It does, Ray.
Thank you for that very well written commentary on that. I think you hit the point, and I also thank you for the motion that you went with without any mandate, whatever might come down the pike. So I applaud you for putting that out there for us to have an open discussion. Really? How come I cheat? Okay. All right. So I have a couple quotes I'd like to share, and then I have a statement. So the ultimate test of a moral society is the kind of world that it leaves to its children. The test of the morality of a society is what it does for its children. Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak, and not to act is to act. And then the last is, we are not to simply bandage the wounds of victims beneath the wheels of injustice. We are to drive a spoke into the wheel itself. And our victims are our kids. And, I was asked once to put a profile pic for somebody I hold in high esteem, and I chose Martin Luther. I said there's few people I'd love to have lunch with. Martin Luther's one, Martin Luther King Jr. is another, and the person I just quoted was Dietrich Bonhoeffer, if you know anything about him, and how he died standing up for what the Nazis were doing. And I think that's what we're at. We have to stand up for our kids, And we have to know that even though we know that this mandate is supposed to end January 17th, we have to stop allowing our kids to be victims and allow the parents to choose what they want for their children. If these masks work, then when I removed it coming in here, Brett's mask will work and protect him. I have students that are wearing N95s in school, and so they should be protected as well. So I think, giving the parents the right to choose what they want for their child. Logic would have it, why is it all right to take a mask off on January 17th? That's after Thanksgiving, after Christmas parties, and after Christmas holidays with the families, and then January 17th it's okay to take the mask off. Where's the logic in that? Additionally, I think you also in your statement as well said that we're not going to make everyone happy. Half the community will be upset if we make the mask optional. Then we have others that if we make it that masks are mandatory. It's a basically no-win situation for us. And then the last thing is, and I'm not sure if the community knows this, but PDE promotes in our schools something called SEL, or social emotional learning and trauma-informed education, yet they are putting these mandates and dictates in place that are actually causing the emotional trauma and the back and forth, the constant back and forth from the Department of Health and the PDE supporting it. So it is jeopardizing the mental health of our students. And it's time we start protecting them, just like Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, and it's really time to stop this insanity. So I would really ask this board members to really consider where you stand on this side of history. Are we going to be a Dietrich Bonhoeffer, or are we going to be somebody else and allow our kids to be unmasked?
Thank you. More comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, are we ready to go to roll call vote?
Reverend Ashman, before you start.
I'm sorry.
I just want to say to this board, I appreciate that we're all in the same place here together. I want you to know that voting, I don't believe this will ever happen, but if something should happen and we vote to go mask optional and something should happen to one of our children, there are some of us on this board that could possibly lose our licenses to continue on with our how we make our living. A few of us might have I have health and safety licenses. I have safety that might be in jeopardy. That's one of the reasons I have voted for the mandate, is because it's the way my family, it's my livelihood. So it's not an easy decision for me, and I know what Desiree said. I don't think the mask is the evil here. I think it's the virus and the way we've handled it within this community. I think that it will be overturned, but I personally need to wait until the courts hear this legal issue. The personal way I feel about this is I work in a business where many people I've worked with have died. I spent most of the weekend with 75 people performing half unmasked, half masked, but I'm wearing a mask today because I don't know what I was exposed to over the last 2 days. So this is not an easy decision for me.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Flickel?
No.
Mrs. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Sensenich?
Yes.
Mr. Renninger?
No.
Mr. Buckwalter?
No.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Grable?
Yes.
Mr. Brenner?
Yes.
Reverend Eshelman?
Yes. Is that 5-3, I think?
6-3.
6-3. Thank you. That's passed. Thank you. Item number 3 on our agenda is a superintendent's update. So Dr. Musser, would you lead us through that, please?
I really don't have any, sorry. I don't really have any updates other than any communication that goes out about tonight. I'll be looking to the board president to formulate some of that communication because this is definitely going beyond the mandate or beyond any of our policies. So hopefully we can get communication out tonight, but it could be tomorrow, and we'll be looking to you to do that communication.
Yep.
So I think, and then there's a couple of details just in terms of how that would pertain or play out that we try to address in that communication. Other than that, I don't really have any updates.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Item number 4 is general. I'm sorry.
Yes, one of the questions in particular was parent-teacher conferences and how to handle that, given that they're all scheduled and they were scheduled in a previous context.
Right.
Either virtually or in person with masks. So that's something, I don't know if that's something we want to talk about here or you want to make a comment about here, but that's certainly a question that
Yeah, that will be in the communication that we send out. Most likely we'll stay the course with that and just keep things, rather than rearranging things at this point, most likely we would just simply stay the course and keep things as they have.
As they were scheduled.
As they were planned, yeah.
Kevin, if I could I just embellish on that a little bit, just for the sake of everyone here? I guess what we're asking for is your grace as we walk through this parent-teacher conference piece. So if we don't add, if you've already been scheduled, we would like to keep it as is. In other words, what that means, if a teacher had agreed to be masked by a parent who wanted a masked teacher, we're going to keep that the way it was. If we let everybody reschedule at this late point, it's going to create a lot of havoc. So we're just asking for your cooperation for that piece. So it just really affects parents, not kids. So thank you.
Right, and so then the communication would be, if you were scheduled for a virtual conference, it would be virtual. If you were scheduled for an in-person with mask conference, it would be in-person with mask.
Right.
I think that's probably the biggest thing coming up. After school events or things like that, we would just keep masks optional.
Right.
So there's just some clarification like that I will try to put in the communication.
Okay.
And we'll have that coming from you as board president.
Yep, thanks. Okay, item number 4 is general comments. So I'm going to start with the board and just give the opportunity for any general comments this evening as well.
I would just say, like you mentioned earlier, a number of us were on a building tours today, and I'm just really impressed with how our administration and staff have navigated through this pandemic and how well our students have remained flexible, and education is still occurring. So it was also nice to see their faces. So that was a really great event today. So.
Yeah, thank you. Any more comments?
Yeah, I would just say also, just my kids are long gone out of school and everything, so I'm kind of out of touch with what's in the buildings as far as, seeing the grade school classes and that sort of thing. And we saw the preschool and grade school and middle school and high school course. And I was just really, really blessed and impressed with just the interaction going on, and just the teachers being so engaged and really getting, just getting back to the whole thing of just teaching. And you should see the love of them teaching. I mean, a million examples I give you, but the one that just really stands out, I guess, would be the 5th grade class today. We saw 5th grade students coming out with these incredible inventions, and not just like, I'm going to go on a rocket ship goes to the moon. No, they were real life inventions that could have been, I feel, actually implemented in today's companies. It was just incredible. And they would take a existing, invention, and then they would just improve on it. And how they just thought about this, and then the questions that the students asked them about this device they made, it was just incredible, intelligent questions of 5th graders. It was just like, wow. And I even told the one student that they ought to submit their idea to the manufacturer and just, maybe patent and submit that to them because it's an incredible idea. So we have really amazing students, amazing kids out there, and all levels, middle school, high school, and stuff we saw in high school in tech ed, they're making things, and just, far light years ahead when we had shop back in 50 years ago. But it's just we can be very proud of what we have here in this school, and with what's going on. Of course, bad news always travels faster than good news. Human nature, but the good news must be also told that we are doing a good thing in Cocalico. People don't move to a school district because they hear bad things about that school district. Housing is hard to get in this district because there's so much demand to live here. Okay? So I'm very proud to be on this board. I'm very proud of what is going on here in Cocalico, and I'm very proud of the teachers and the admin and the students. The students just blew me away with what they do and can do and interact, and just from walking around with the preschool little kids and seeing their faces light up, eating their carrots and French toast, things like that. Just interacting with the students in the middle school with their art class, and then the high school students, talking to them. It really blessed me, and I'm just very proud of all of them, and I'm just proud to be in this community and on this board.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, we do it.
If I could jump in.
Sure.
I did just want to say thank you. Sorry, I keep forgetting I need to speak up here. I did just want to say a special thank you to the board. You've been putting in lots of extra time, and you gave away your day as well to visit classrooms and see what's really going on in the buildings, and I think that was a really important piece of just understanding where we're at and how things are going and what the needs are and how to proceed from here. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate the teachers for opening up their doors and letting us visit and chat with the students, and the principals who gave up many hours in their days to take us around. So thank you for that commitment of time and for putting the energy into it to really work through the situations and then understanding what learning was looking like in these days. So thank you for that.
Okay, we do have a few people that have signed up for general comments, so I'm going to begin with Michelle Holt.
I'm just happy I get to say thank you. And thank you for putting our kids first, and thank you for not making them ping pong back and forth between yes mask, no mask, what mandate is next. So thank you guys.
Thank you. And Patrick Zazinski.
When the email came out that the masks were optional, I checked the numbers, and there were 7 cases in the last 2 weeks. There were 7 COVID cases in our district, down from 21 at the last meeting, down from 46 in September's meeting. Further evidence that the mask mandate was working. I will be watching these numbers over the 4 to 6 weeks that it will take to see the consequences, and I will be the first to remind you of those consequences. I'd like to respond to a comment that a board member made in response to my comments about vaccines, and the general idea was, the board member said, it's my understanding that if you got the smallpox vaccine, you could not get smallpox. That is incorrect. No vaccine is 100% effective. If a vaccine was 100% effective, I would be the first person to be in favor of personal choice over vaccines. That is not how vaccines work. In fact, the smallpox vaccine, you could get smallpox from the vaccine. You cannot get COVID from the COVID vaccine. You can get COVID if you are vaccinated, but you cannot get COVID from the COVID vaccine because the COVID vaccine does not use the COVID virus. It is an improvement. It is the best vaccine that we have ever had, the most effective and safe. So, you might be wondering if the smallpox vaccine was not 100% effective, and in fact you could get smallpox from the vaccine, how were we able to eradicate smallpox? In order to understand that, you have to understand how biological systems work. The virus and the community are a biological system. The amount of virus in a community depends on the individual's risk in the community. But the individual's risk depends on the total virus in the community. In mathematics, this is known as a dynamical system of coupled variables. Whenever you have a system like this, you can have positive feedback mechanisms. This explains the spikes that we saw in Florida and Texas, more recently in Romania and Eastern Europe. On the other hand, if you reduce the individual risk by a certain amount, you can have a negative feedback mechanism. And if you reduce it by enough, that negative feedback mechanism can lead to extinction of the virus. That is how we eradicated smallpox with an imperfect smallpox vaccine. That is how we can eradicate any virus. So I also wanted to address this concept of personal choice. This is why personal choice and personal liberty is not applicable here. My risk depends on your risk. Your risk depends on my risk. We are a community. We form a community. The choice is whether you want to be a member of the community or not. You use our roads, you use our schools, you use our grocery stores, you use our hospitals. No man is an island. You are your brother's keeper. Love one another. Everyone, please, get vaccinated and wear a mask in public.
Thank you. Dan Burton, please.
Thank you all again. Thank you for your courage, all of you. Thank you for your courage and sticking with your convictions and what you believe to be truth. That's what truly matters right now is truth. I can stand here and truthfully say that this is just the first step, that there will be other things coming our direction that we're going to have to figure out what to do about. Adding against the mandates, I know one thing we didn't address this evening was I hope that we have choice for our teachers as well, because I'm sure there's just as many teachers that want to have choice about wearing a mask in school or not to. So I don't know if that was covered in that vote this evening or not, but I'm hoping that the teachers are able to choose their own health as well, or their own path. But aside from that, I stand strong in my conviction and my dedication to you that I will stand with you for the attacks that are coming, because they will come. You are and have just proven this evening what a lesser magistrate is. I've been talking about that for the last few months. A lesser magistrate is the closest form of representation we have as a people. You are the closest thing we have. Right now we have a president that says, come on, man, your freedom is just a jab. We have a president of the United States saying that. It is we the people. You are the closest thing we have to that representation. Your role is one of the most important roles in our entire government body, whether you realize that or not. That is what the truth is. So know that when I've said up here that your relevance is going to be made wary or less in tune with what the government wants, that's what I mean. They don't want you as the lesser magistrate. They don't want you as our direct representation. They would rather not have school boards deciding what happens in our 500 school districts. They would rather have one school board for the entire state to decide upon what is going to happen across the state, if we're even lucky to have that. So know this is just the beginning. Know that the folks here in this room will support you. Know that when more mandates come, when more jab mandates come, when they try to inject more critical race theory or equality or anything that we're trying to teach to our teachers, know that we will stand with you, because that is what freedom is about. Please know that. Please know that. This is just the beginning, or the end for Richard. Sorry. Thank you for your service. And Treva, I hope you are paying attention this evening, because this is what's coming. This is a fight we're all going to be up against, all of us, all of us. So thank you. Have a very good evening. Thank you for your vote this evening. Thank you for showing the leadership that you showed this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude our public comment this evening, so I entertain a motion from the board to adjourn.
So moved.
Amen.
And moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign.
7:30.
Meeting adjourned.
It's 12 hours.